Yo, what's going on, everybody? What's happening? All right, so quickly, last month when rides were getting worse and worse, the $3 rides were popping up more and more. So my research question was simple: can taking $3 rides be profitable and worth your time? And I did get some data, which I think hopefully would be helpful. And so we're going to kind of go over my data. We're going to kind of go over some graphs, some key takeaways. But what you're looking at right now are just some trips that I took. These are the final screenshots of after the trip was taken and what I was paid for and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if I put those ones in here, but there were some interesting ones. Somehow I got paid like half of what I was supposed to get paid when they're telling me I didn't drop them off where I was supposed to, and of course it's too far for me to dispute that. But um, these are all the trips that I took. The parameters were, obviously I think the lowest ride that I took was like with a bonus $2.53. It was $4.53 for the ride. It was a $2 surge, and the ride was $2.53. The ride that I had the longest was up to almost 12 minutes for $3. And so you can see that's not really effective. There's a way to be effective and a way not to be effective, and that's kind of what we're going to talk about. And so the first graph that we're going to look at, the first graphs are from December, and we're going to kind of talk about those. Okay, so like I said, these first three graphs are going to be from December, and so I broke them down. I was trying to put them all together on one graph, but it was really difficult to do it, so I'm just going to do it this way. And so you could see the trip miles and the trip payment, right? Kind of like see how many miles that you may have had to take for how many dollars, right? So, um, in this first graph here, basically you can see the highest miles that I had to drive was 4.5, and the shortest I had to drive was about 1 mile, and the payments basically went from 253 all the way up to about $5, which isn't too bad. And so then the next graph we're going to look at, that's going to be the trip miles over trip time. So like I said, there was one ride that took me almost 12 minutes to complete, and there was, as short as 2 minutes and 11 seconds was the shortest ride that I took. Um, and then, trip miles, the lowest was about one. About and that's just happened because I was dropping somebody off and picking somebody up. But these do include trips to and like the trip to pick them up and the trip to drop them off. Which, and honestly, the shorter the trips, the shorter the miles, the quicker they're going to be, right? And so this one here is the trip time and the trip payment. Um, the trip time is in orange. So again, there's the highest I did to 12. The shortest I did was about 2 minutes and 11 seconds. And yeah, so I mean, this kind of shows right here you want to be below the 6 minute mark, right, to get the most effective time in the ride and all that kind of good stuff. So here's January. So here's January's miles and per miles and trips. So we can see that the miles actually the minimum was almost 2 miles. The shortest trip was almost 2 miles here, and I had a trip take almost 13 minutes for January. and then miles and trip payments. So basically, as you can see, they're pretty tight for January. $3, is gonna get you low miles, but what I've noticed that basically, uh, if you're taking a $3 trip, more than likely you're gonna get $1 a mile. So here's the last graph: trip payment with trip time. So the trip time is in gray. So again, 2 minutes and 11 seconds. That one on the December it was a little bit more than 2 minutes, but this one here is 2 minutes and 11 seconds is the shortest trip. Almost 13 minutes, right? That was that one trip that I took on Saturday, and so I mean some of the trips were $1 a mile, but they sometimes took 10 minutes. Traffic. So is taking a $3.07 ride effective? It really depends on if the ride is completed in less than 8 minutes. And this is the reason why. At 8 minutes, you can do about 7.5 of them, and that's with perfect. I mean, that means that the rider is showing up on time. They're getting in your car. You're not hitting lights, right? You're basically just driving straight for an hour, picking up, dropping off, and there's no accountability for stop time, right? So that doesn't really make sense. So I mean, you know, could you do that? Yeah, possibly. If it's more than 10 minutes, based on math, you can't get $30 an hour. Like I said, I had that one ride that took over 12 minutes due to the rider not being ready. I had to wait for them to get into the car. And then this is where the sweet spot is, right? So if you can get 5 to 6 minute rides, then you could get to $30 an hour. It's possible. And you could do, I would say, about 11 rides at 5.5 minutes. That's going to give you about 55 minutes. That gives you a little bit of stop time. But that doesn't mean that that's going to be the case, right? I mean, you might be doing 10-minute rides, so you might get $30.07. I think more realistic, though, is 9 rides at $3.07, around $27.63 an hour. So, and the reason I do that because that gives time for the 2 minutes for people to show up if they're not ready. It kind of accounts for stop time at stoplights and stop signs and stuff like that, and traffic. Basically, that's kind of the takeaway here, is that you're going to need to do at least 9 rides to be profitable somewhat. And if you do the $3.07 rides, and the miles is 1 to 2, right? You're already making profit as well. So there is some profitability here, but you got to hustle. You got to sit. You got to be patient. You got to take these rides. I mean, you can take 9 rides at $3.07. You'll get about $27.63, and that's about 50 minutes of actual drive time. Um, but that's if the ride's less than 6 minutes. That's the caveat to this, right? So 9 rides times 5.5, right? That's kind of where I got this. So it's everything is based on 5.5 minutes. So you have to do the ride below six. I say 5.5. I mean, that's kind of where I got. That's where I figured it out. So hey, comment below. Let me know what you think. Do you take these $3 rides? Is it feasible for you? If you get some tips, right, you can make over $30 an hour. If I was to get a couple tips, $2 tips on these, $1 tip, maybe if I got $1, on each ride for half of them, you know what I mean, 60% of those, you're definitely going to be at your $30 an hour. But that's only if you're taking these $3.07 rides below 5 minutes. If you're doing it more than that, you're done. You're not going to make money. So let me know what you think. If you have any feedback or suggestions, comment below. Otherwise, thank you and have a good day.